Obsidian are learning the hard way that there is nothing worse in the video game industry than total apathy for your products. When gamers just don't care anymore, they're not thinking about your games, they've moved on to something else, they're not even angry or upset anymore, they just don't care. That's when you know it's totally over for a company like Obsidian. And that really is the lesson, I think, from the whole price rise, price drop controversy with the Outer Worlds 2. And I'm sure most people are pretty much aware of it by now, but basically what happened is a few weeks ago, Microsoft announced, the Outer Worlds Obsidian announced that a lot of games are going up in price to $80 US. And now there's been a backtrack. A couple of days ago, the Outer Worlds Twitter put out that, no, we're listening, SOS. Guys, we're dropping the price back down to $70. It's all okay. All these people not pre-ordering and complaining and putting bad PR out there that's making things look really bad. We're already worried about getting closed down like so many Microsoft studios. Please buy our game. We're going to drop this to $70. And they did this in a very humorous way because remember, the Outer Worlds, it's all about we're making fun of the corporations, the money makers. And it's really funny because we're a company as well making money. So it's like a joke inside. It's super ironic. Come on, this is funny stuff. We're reducing the price. And obviously this wasn't Obsidian who made the decision. It was probably Microsoft. It might have been a combination of both. Leadership at Obsidian who were worried and said, no, please, can we drop the price? Who knows exactly how this actually occurred? But it's not really a good thing. If there was anything positive they were wanting to get out of this, Obsidian, Microsoft, by reducing the price, whatever positives they were wanting to get out of this, it's not going to work because it's far too late. It's been far too late for quite a while. Really, the whole price rise to $80 for the Outer Worlds 2 was the death knell in that game. It was dead a long time ago, the second that they even entertained doing that. Raising prices, creating any sort of PR controversy of any sort really was just going to doom that game. Because it's a title that no one really cared about. Like, it's a game that had to wow people, really impress people and win them over, create amazing positive word of mouth around the internet for that game to have any chance whatsoever. The original Outer Worlds, the only reason it did moderately well and sold a few million copies, it only happened because people were hating Bethesda at the time for their Fallout 76 stuff. There weren't a lot of single-player RPGs out there. People were claiming, Obsidian were claiming this is from the makers of Fallout New Vegas, all your favorite old RPGs. Come and play the Outer Worlds, which is going to be more old school. Wasn't really, it was just a pretty generic cookie-cutter game. It felt pretty dumbed down. There was nothing really positive to say about it. It ticked boxes on like a spreadsheet of, yes, this RPG feature is in there, blah, blah, blah. But as an entire game, it didn't come together. It was just very, very weak. No one really likes it all that much. And I think that's really just shown from how people talk about it these days. No one brings it up in their favorite games. It's just, yeah, it was okay. I'm not going to give it a negative review or anything, which is why it looks all right on Steam. It's got mostly positive reviews, I think, but no one really recommends it. No one's thinking about it, and people could not be less excited for a sequel, which was really shown in the reaction to the price rise up to $80 and the fact that people don't care now. In fact, I was kind of surprised when I saw this news. It was obviously pathetic. It just makes Obsidian look totally desperate. No one is obviously buying that this was about listening to customers. They say that in the statement, we've received your SOS via script drone about the pricing. Ha ha! There's an organization devoted to making sure that corporations, blah, blah, blah. Basically just using this statement to try and use the argument, we listen to the customers, that's why we're dropping the price. It's nothing to do with anything else. Actually, no one is buying it at all, and I wasn't expecting that, because obviously this is bullshit. Anyone being honest would know that, but there's usually fanboys who would try and say, no, they did what you asked, they dropped the price, so now you in good faith have to accept that. You can't be angry anymore. I expected a lot of that, but it's not happening. And it's not happening because Obsidian just don't really have any fans anymore. That's really it. I mean, even on Reddit, the Outer Worlds Reddit, no one's buying this or no one really sees this as a good thing at all. They're just talking about it's okay to bully corporations, call them out on their bullshit, blah, blah. So excited to hear from all those people who told us to shut up about the price increase because complaining was apparently a waste of time. Pre-orders must be abysmal, as I've never seen a price decrease before a game actually came out. And that's the narrative basically anywhere, which is obviously true. Anyone sensible who's just looking at this objectively would know this, but I thought the fanboys would be saying, hey, they've done it. Come on, everyone. Let's get into the Outer Worlds 2. Let's get enthusiastic now. No more of this negative PR. But that isn't happening because no one cares about Obsidian. No one cares about the Outer Worlds 2. And what people's reaction actually was to the price increase for seeing that the Outer Worlds 2 was going to be $70, people's reaction wasn't, oh no, I was looking forward to this game, I was going to buy it, but now it's too expensive. Damn it, this sucks. No one said that. People looked at this and they went, you know what? This game isn't worth $80. It's not worth $70. It's not worth $40. This game is barely worth anything. It's a bargain bin game, bargain bin series. I couldn't give a shit about Obsidian. When did they last actually make a good game? It's been like 10 plus years. They're over the hill. The devs who work there hate us. They hate average gamers. They've made that very clear. Even in private chats that were leaked, that art director, I think he made it public, but there were other ones behind closed doors. These devs are just sad people. I don't think they're capable of making a good product. And they've proven it with recent releases. So, fuck them. You could discount it to $20 brand new, and I'm not buying it. I don't care about this game at all. It's on the back burner, maybe down the track, like the Outer Worlds 1 was alright to maybe pass the time. But fuck this. I don't care that your game is $80. It gives me a good excuse not to play it. That was kind of the mindset, I think, of most people when they saw that news. It was apathy. People just didn't care anymore. And you can compare this with other similar controversies, like with Nintendo, when there was the whole thing about Nintendo Switch 2 was coming out, that was a bit pricey, and then, oh my god, the games, they're even more expensive. They've gone up to $80 for Super Mario Kart World, I think it was. That was the most expensive one. And people were quite upset about that. People were going into Nintendo Directs, and they were spamming stuff about the price, trying to get them to change it. Million threads all over the internet complaining about it. And people were doing that because they actually cared. And what they were hoping was, oh, maybe Nintendo will listen and they'll drop the price because I really want to play these games and it means a lot to me. People care because Nintendo at least put out somewhat decent products a lot of the time. They actually have fans, people who care. That's why there were a lot of people talking about that controversy. With the Outer Worlds 2, it wasn't that, because people do not care. These people do not have any real track record. Most of the people who made the better Obsidian games from some time ago, most of them aren't even there anymore. So what is it now? It's just Microsoft's RPG studio. That's really it. Most of the good people are long gone. It's just the same old cultists who work there, the blue hairs, the pink hairs, who hate gamers and they don't make anything decent. And now they want even more money for their game that's meant to be a satire on corporations, but it's not even funny. It pretends to be self-aware, but it just kind of sucks. No one is going to pay the more expensive price, obviously, but no one's going to buy it for $70 either. It's still way too expensive, so this just looks totally pathetic, and as absolutely everyone has acknowledged, doesn't take any genius to figure it out. They only did this because no one's buying it whatsoever. No one's pre-ordering it. There's negative PR, and the industry is now learning when your game has a negative reputation before it has even come out. And that can be for any reason. It doesn't have to be because people are concerned about the game quality. It could be anything. It could be a bit like the dumb art director with Avowed. It could be something like that. Not related to the game itself, but people see, hey, there's an idiot working on the game. That suggests that the game is made by idiots and it's not going to be good. There's a lot of that. And once you get into that negative PR spin on the game, it releases, it's almost guaranteed to be a flop. There's very few times where people are concerned, they're skeptical of a game, then it releases, and oh my god, it's actually incredible, I wasn't expecting this, and people are surprised and then go ahead and buy it. Usually, if there's a negative perception before release, your game's doomed and you can never recover. That's pretty much it for the most part. Very rare that gets overcome. And that's basically it for the Outer Worlds 2. Microsoft discounted it in a desperate measure, And you can see some of this in the Steam charts, for instance. Some people will say, no, you can't go off the Steam charts. But honestly, it was kind of accurate for quite a few of these recent games. Like, Avowed was looking really bad on the Steam charts, and it was a flop. Dragon Age the Veilguard looked awful on the Steam charts, and it was a massive flop. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 looked good on the Steam charts, and it was a success. So I feel like there is kind of a trend here. I'm sure it was the same for Expedition 33, which, to be fair, was a better example of a game having great word of mouth after it came out, heaps of positive feedback that led to sales. So that can happen, but we can see here with the Outer Worlds 2 that the numbers do look absolutely pathetic. So 85 in top wish lists, which is pretty low. I mean, that's higher than I think Avowed and stuff was, but it's meant to be a sequel to a game that originally sold well, so it kind of makes sense. And a lot of people, I assume, wishlisted before the price increase controversy. Maybe this all, like, it went live on the store at the same time, so maybe that's not the case, but I assume it would have been. I assume this has been available for wishlisting for quite some time. The sales numbers look really, really bad, so 783. Now, obviously it's not out, this is pre-orders. However, they have dropped the price, which you would think, oh, lots of people are going to pre-order now because it's the right price. This is fantastic. No one is, no one cares. Some will say, no, but it's great that people aren't pre-ordering. We should be happy about that. That is only true if it's no pre-orders across the board, which I obviously would support, many people would support. But there's no indication that that's happening, that pre-orders across the board are down. It's just that no one is pre-ordering the Outer Worlds 2 because it doesn't look good. It was a rip-off. Now, even though they've dropped the price, you only did that because no one's buying it. The game doesn't look good. No one's talking about it positively. That means that your average normie gamer on Steam is not going to be buying it, not going to be pre-ordering it. No one has any interest in this game. So sales are extremely low. There's no activity here. No one's talking about it in any sort of positive light. These numbers look really bad, and it's almost certainly just going to come out and be a flop. Unless there is an incredible game behind the scenes that they haven't really shown us, nothing we've seen so far looks really any better to the Outer Worlds 1. Maybe it's got a bigger budget, it's going to look shinier, but if it's just the same old game, it's going to have no depth, it's going to have no substance. People are going to lose interest. They're certainly not going to be recommending it. Everything is pointing towards a massive, massive flop. You go on the Steam community forums, and you'd expect these to be kind of negative, but you'd think there'd be something. Someone would be saying something positive. They're not. It's just more of the same. Not sure if this game will even reach 10k players. Honest message to the dev and mods, and I thought maybe this is just good faith feedback, or maybe they're excited about the game. They're not either. It's someone complaining about censorship on the forum. So apparently, even though I'm only seeing negative threads for the most part, the mods on here are still trying to delete every post, and they're merging it all into one big thread or something like that, which is just another way of censoring without you having the controversy around deleting posts. You just move it all into one mega thread, all of the criticism, which is what they're doing basically. So no one has anything good to say about the game, any goodwill that Obsidian ever had, like the old days of being that underdog studio who just wants to make the good RPGs. They're not wanting to be all corporate and follow the mainstream and so on. They're just trying to make good games. That goodwill is just totally gone. It's totally vanished. It went that way, a combination of just pretty average, mediocre releases, and again, also the staff just making it clear that they don't even like your average RPG gamer. They're insane. The people who work there, they're just the sort we want to get out of the industry. They're the last people we want to actually be supporting to stay in the industry. So maybe if the game flops, they'll be moved on and they can't ruin other games. We'll see. Last thing I want to mention is just the budget of the Outer Worlds 1, and I'm sure the Outer Worlds 2, it's likely very high. And it's interesting, because I saw this post somewhere, where at some point Tim Kaine, who created the original Fallout, he worked on other games like Bloodlines, Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlines, Arcanum. He was at least at the studio, founded the studio who made those games. And he also directed the Outer Worlds 1, is working on the Outer Worlds 2. What's interesting is just how these budgets have ballooned, which I'm sure is partly the justification for why they wanted the Outer Worlds 2 to be $80 in the first place, is these games are just getting so expensive to make. Well, what he's done is compared the budget of the Outer Worlds to some of his previous games. And you can see here, Bloodlines 1 was made for like 5 million, let's say 10, maybe 15 million with inflation. Fallout was very cheap to make. It was made by a tiny team. South Park, The Stick of Truth, was not made for too much. 10 million, maybe 20 million today. Pillars of Eternity, 5 million or so, thereabouts. So most of his games that he's worked on were made for 10 million or less. But then the Outer Worlds 1 balloons up to about $35 million or something. And that's, I'm sure, before marketing. The Outer Worlds 2 likely has a much bigger budget than even that. It's been obviously touted as this big, huge, humongous AAA game. That's why it had to be $80. So that was probably made for 60, 70, maybe even 100 million. And the question really is, why? Where is all this money going? Because the game quality is not improving whatsoever. You get all these elitist devs, whenever you ask that question, they'll scoff. You get all these elitist devs, whenever you ask that question, they scoff. And you're uneducated, you don't know what you're talking about. That's how the industry is now. Then you grill them on it, and I've seen this in posts on Twitter and other places, that they basically will just say, oh, well, gamers expect a lot more now, and you have to keep up with their expectations. Where are the metrics for that? What are they basing that on? I've never seen those metrics where gamers will only play game with the latest textures and all these other crazy things, apparently, for why a game has to cost 200 million to make now. I've never seen those metrics. They never presented them or made a real argument. My theory has always been that these AAA companies have realized with indie games taking off and becoming very popular, that their only point of difference is graphics and presentation and all that. And that's why they make these really expensive games, because it's the only thing that indies can't really compete on. When it comes to actual fun gameplay, there's not a lot separating the AAA and smaller dev teams. The gameplay, I mean, how it feels to play, the story, all those things. Investing another 50 million, it's not going to necessarily improve those areas. The only thing it can do is improve the presentation and the textures and the graphics and everything. So they've just made it by default, oh no, these games have to be really, really expensive. There's no other choice. That's why we have to make the next Assassin's Creed with 1,000 team members or something. They're just doing it because it's their only way to compete, and they're desperate for gamers to see graphics and textures and everything as being the benchmark. What makes a game good? They're hoping to manipulate people into thinking that is what makes a great quality game. People are obviously seeing through it. You're making your Outer Worlds 2 for $100 million or something like that. It looks like crap. No one has a positive thing to say about it. Now you're backtracking desperately. You've got no fans defending that. No one at all is justifying it and saying, good, you're listening to your fans. Nah, you already blew this massively. The game already has that negative reputation. It's going to be a humongous flop. And it's going to be quite funny. Probably not for the Obsidian staff members, Matt, or whatever that art director's name was. He's probably living on borrowed time. But Obsidian, Microsoft, reap what they sow. And we'll see what happens when it comes out. But we'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.